Hello, welcome back. White rice with black beans in a stew with a side of sweet fried plantains and some avocado. White rice with black beans is one of the many Cuban traditional food, and they do have a rich culture when it comes to food and other things. My best friend back in Puerto Rico, he came from Cuba. I used to stay in his house 2, 3 times a week as a young teenager. And his mother, she used to cook very deliciously. So I learned a few things watching her, and this is one of them. And this goes for a Facebook lady that she was asking, and she was craving for this kind of meal. So I decided to create it, and I'm going to share in that particular page in addition to YouTube, because I want her to learn how to do it herself. So go nowhere, let's create. So this is the ingredient for the black beans. This is about 15 ounces of black beans. I use a can. However, you can also use dry ones, but this one take a little bit to prepare. And because I am in a little bit rush like most people, I decided to go with these ones, the canned variety. I have grated tomato. This is about 1/3 tomato, because you don't want to use a lot of tomato sauce when you're doing black beans. You don't want the color to change. That's the point I'm trying to make. Some olive. I had the one that I cut in little pieces, not a whole lot of olive. This is about maybe 5 olive that cut in pieces. Small bay leaf. About 4 pieces of either squash or pumpkin, if you want to. This is a very small potato, which I cut in tiny pieces. This is optional. This is like pork, like salted pork. You can replace that with, the fat from the beef, from steak. You can replace that, or you can leave it alone. Some people even might be able to use kind of little pieces of bacon too. But if you don't like pork and you don't like beef, don't use any. You're going to need some extra virgin olive oil, salt for taste, what we call in Puerto Rico comino, cumin, ground variety. You're going to need just a little bit. And now comes the interesting part. These 5 ingredients, in essence, is pretty much what we call sofrito. Now, I pre-prepared the sofrito so I can cook meals like this. However, if you don't have sofrito, you can substitute by doing this. You get a little bit of cilantro, a little bit of fresh oregano. See, this is a tiny bit. Look at the finger, my finger. A tiny bit of onions, just a little bit. This is about a tablespoon and a half. About a tablespoon and a half of sweet green peppers. I have red and orange. You could have some green too, like the bell pepper, but you just need a little bit for this particular meal. And I have about 2 tooth of garlic, which I mince or a squish, And I think I have everything I need. Now, once again, this is just for the portion related to the beans. So you have a pot, relatively small. And you have your heat high. And in this hot pot, what you do is just start with the 2 pieces of meat. Put it there. Pot is hot. Then you have a little bit of your oil. Not a lot, just a little bit. You hear the sound of the music. Move things around a little bit, just for a few seconds. You add your onions, because now you're creating the sofrito, the pepper, sweet pepper, the oregano, and the cilantro. Back a little bit. Now the advantage of having sofrito is that when you use the sofrito, the actual sofrito, it will disintegrate. You know, you won't even see it or stuff. This you're going to see a little bit. Let me lower the heat to medium for now. Add your garlic. Let it simmer for about a few seconds, you know. You don't want to burn. Oh my goodness, this smells good. You add the tomatoes. Now you're creating the true base. See how the base looks? Now what I do is add a little bit of the cumin. Just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. You can smell it now. Add the olives. And you stir these things around because you don't want it burning. Creating that base. Going to add the squash or pumpkin, whatever you want to call it. Getting a nice texture. Add the potatoes. And the reason I add the potatoes now is because I want to create the base a little bit. You know, I want the flavor from the base to move into the potatoes. Add the beans. Stir everything around. Does it look familiar to you, my friend? My Facebook friend from Facebook. Does it look familiar? Starting to look familiar? I have not forgotten the bay leaf. Just cut in half. Now the question is, how soupy do you want it? And based on that answer, you put water. Now you could have used a beef broth too, by the way, but I'm going to go with water, which is typically what everybody, you know, use. But sometimes I use broth just to give it that nice beef flavor if I'm using beef chunks. You know, chunks meaning like the little grease like that, you know. I went with salted pork. This is not going to take a long time. One trick, what I did with the potatoes, I actually put it in boiling water for 5 minutes just to soften them a little bit. They are not quite done, but they're a little bit softened. That allows me to minimize the time because I'm using canned beans, And so now when it comes to this, I didn't soften them because they're going to cook pretty quickly. And they are the ones that are going to tell me that the stuff is done because the beans are going to be done within minutes. It's just the issue making sure the stuff is cooked. It's not hard, just a little bit softer. Now, what you're going to do, and this is kind of important because that's going to determine your flavor, is, and I'm sorry I was reaching for a spoon. You come and you give it a taste. And based on that taste, you add whatever amount of salt you want. You do it to your taste. I don't use adobo because I cannot control the amount of salt with adobo because you have salt, oregano, pepper. So I don't know how much salt it has or how much or little. So I use a sea salt, move things around a little bit. There are different ways of cooking black beans. This is one of my favorite ways because it's simple. I can teach it simply. See how the reason it's still like black is because I didn't put sazon. That sazon's orange stuff that people use in Puerto Rico, from Puerto Rico. Oh man, that is good. I decided to skip the paprika. Typically when I cook red beans or white beans, I use smoked paprika. I decided to skip it today and I choose to go with the ground cumin. Black beans tend to be a dish cooked in Cuba. They're big in the cumin stuff. Comino, I don't know how to pronounce it in English. My daughter, the other day, she sent me a voice text telling me how to pronounce it properly. I forgot to listen to it, so you're going to have to live with that, with my pronunciation. And let it cook for a little bit. I'm going to put it at medium, leave it at medium. And I'm going to let it cook. And that's pretty much it. Once the stuff is a little bit softened, they're done. So I'm coming back to the beans. Yeah, they look about a minute away to be done, maybe 2 minutes. So every time when the beans are about to be done or practically done, I do this. I grab a couple of, leaf of cilantro, add in the top. That's a personal touch, by the way. And the reason I do this is because I wanted to give it that earth smell. I want it to smell like nature, so I add this cilantro when it's about a minute to go. See how beautiful these beans are? So what I do is I'm going to let it go. I'm going to turn it down to low. And I'm going to let it go for like 2 minutes. And then they will be done. I'm going to cook 1 cup of rice. So because I'm cooking 1 cup of rice, I'm going to use 1 1/3 of a cup of water. Now, if I was using 2 cups of rice, then I will be using 2 cups and 1/3 of water. So I will skip 1/3 of water. Then if I'm cooking like maybe 4 cups of rice or less. If I'm cooking more than that, then I have to take into account other things. And you have the heat very high. Then what you do is you put a little bit, just a tiny bit of olive oil, just a tiny bit. This is about 4 drops, And you let it heat for like maybe a minute, if that. And then what you do is you add your rice. And what I do is after I add the rice, I make sure it's distributed properly. And you let it boil for a little bit. So I'm waiting for it to boil. I want to show you. And it's not going to take a long time to boil because the the pot was already in high heat. And it's still in high heat, by the way. So now that it appears to be boiling, and it doesn't appear, it's actually boiling, you come and what you do is you turn the heat to medium. So you turn it down the heat from high to medium and you cover it. And you leave it like that until you notice that the water has kind of drained somewhat. So, and you come back. So it's a visual thing. You cannot time this because it's going to depend on the kind of pot that you have. If it's cast iron versus, I don't know, whatever other materials you're using. Or if you're using gas stove versus electric. So it's a lot of factors. Whether you're cooking it outside in the woods, using wood or charcoal. It's the same amount of water, same technique. You have to watch it. So once again, I put the heat to medium, cover it, and I will check it out shortly. I think I'm going to check it out in about 3 minutes. So in my case, it was about maybe 5 minutes. See how the rice had dried. Did a little stir. And the reason you do that is because you don't want the bottom sticking. Now you have a lot of people that have the bottom burned. In Puerto Rico, my island, I remember people eating the burnt section of the rice saying, oh man, that's the best part. No, that's not the best part. That's burnt rice. White rice should not be burned at the bottom. And if it gets burned at the bottom for whatever reason, you cannot BS people into saying that's the best part. It's not. So it's not ready. It's not quite ready. I just have to move it a little bit. And now I'm going to cover again. About 2 minutes later, no more than that, came back. Another stir. Now, when I did the water and the rice, if you read instructions that tell you for 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water, that might be true for certain type of rice, like wild rice or something like that, or maybe black rice. But for white rice, that doesn't work. That's total BS. That's how your rice get sticky and stuff like that. Just watch how I'm doing it. It's almost done. Let me give it a taste. Yeah. Actually, it's about 2 minutes to go. So anyhow, going back to the water. The method I'm using is, I'm not letting the water alone to cook my rice. I'm allowing steam. The steam is doing most of the cooking. That's why you saw me covering. When the water went down, I move it around. Cover again, because I'm trying and around the steam to do that. Yeah. It's ready. How you know it's ready? Because when you try it and you taste it, it's not nutty. It's not crunchy. It cannot be crunchy. So I'm going to get it out here, let it rest. So one of my side dishes is going to be fried sweet plantains. I do have a video already on how to prepare this. But you know what? I'm going to do it here again. Cut the edges. Throw away. Time to peel the thin. And this is very ripe. Nicely ripe. And then what you do, you cut it in kind of wedges. I have a very nice knife. The reason it's doing this is because this stuff is so sweet and sticky that I have to be careful not to screw the plantain away. So I have a pan at high heat. I'm not using extra virgin olive oil for this. I'm actually using canola oil. You can use vegetable oil. You can use any type of oil, as long as it's not car oil, of course. But I'm talking about any type of cooking oil. The reason I'm not using extra virgin olive oil, because I want my extra virgin olive oil for, different type of dishes, not to fry stuff like this. So I start putting the plantains, the ripe plantains. I want them to be covered with the oil, but if they are not, it doesn't matter. You can move them around a little bit, And this shouldn't take a long time anyhow. Now, one thing you want to have handy is like a plate with some paper towel. Because when you're done with the plantains and you transfer them, you want that oil to kind of drip out. Because you don't want to be eating the oil. This is a high heat. I'm going to start moving them around. You want them cooked, but you don't want them burn. Don't confuse this with tostones. This is not tostones. This is fried sweet plantains, or fried ripe plantains. We cook this in the Caribbean as a side dish when you cook rice and beans or whatever. We get it, like slice of avocado or avocado, and you complement your meal. But I'm trying to cook as natural. You notice I'm trying to avoid canned stuff other than the beans because of timing. And I did wash the water out before I put them there. I drain them out. Because I'm trying to watch stuff like sodium, things that can increase your high blood pressure or cholesterol. And this kind of stuff it can give you issues with your heart. And this is about to be done, by the way. And in addition, give you issues with your heart. If you're a man and you have high cholesterol and high blood pressure, other things can happen that, I don't want to talk about here because I don't have those issues. But, it can happen to anyone regardless. But, if you can avoid it by diet or at least slow it down somewhat, then you do it. See, the reason I'm moving them out, because look at this color. See how orangey they got? So I know they're cooked. So what I'm doing is I'm moving them around. Now, one thing I miss about Puerto Rico and the Caribbean is that for some reason, and I'm going to turn this off, no matter how ripe the plantains get here in Virginia, they don't get super ripe, like banana type ripe. In Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, when our plantains get ripe there in Cuba, it is like almost banana ripe. And then when you cook them, they're sweet. So these are going to be sweet and good, but it's not the sweet that I'm used to eat when I was growing up, which is almost banana. Not plantain, but almost banana sweet, banana ripe. So I don't know what's going on with the plantains here in Virginia or whatever. So I got, as you can see, stuff ready. Now it's time to put it together.